How is being an artist very different from being the audience?
That is one of the hardest things to get used to because we all begin as an audience. I don't think there's an artist in the world who didn't start by being a fan. We all want to do these things because we liked seeing them, absorbing them. We were the best consumers. And the truth is, the artist never experiences their own work the way an audience will, because first of all, you know what's going to happen. You can't actually experience it. You have to reverse engineer that whole experience. Just like if you're building a roller coaster, you can't be riding the roller coaster at the same time. You have to actually say, I need a support here and I need a dip here. And you're being very mechanical and frankly artificial about it because you're saying, I want them to get a thrill when they go over that hump. And in order to do that, I'm going to have this amount of force up here, and then it's going to have a tailing out at that point, and it's going to become very mechanical in order to give somebody else the pleasure of riding that roller coaster. That's what you need to do as an artist, is to say, I love the experience of going over that hump and then zooming down, and for some reason I don't crash at the bottom. That's because someone knew how to get out of the free fall that I'm going through. The artist has to stop and learn the mechanics, how you support the track that's going to do that, how you make the story twist and turn and provoke those experiences that you yourself will never have. And when you're actually doing it, you get this weird kind of duality, because as you're creating, you usually have like a little tiny bit of an audience's experience. You'll be like, I'm actually enjoying the line I just thought of, as an audience did. You'll have that for a fraction of a second while you're doing it. And then after that, you have to figure out the mechanics to make that scene work. So you're constantly going back and forth, sort of saying, I want to be an audience now, and now in order to get that audience, I got to go back and become the mechanic. And you're constantly cycling through them. You can never really give up being an audience, but you have to also become the person building the ride. The other thing about artists and audiences is that from the finished product, you can never tell how it got made. One of the things I think artists really should do is try to read or hear podcasts or books about how things you love got made, because you'll always be amazed at how the people who set out to do it did not know that the final result was going to be what we now think of as inevitable. And the stories are actually, I just read one about Midnight Cowboy. And when they brought the book Midnight Cowboy, John Schlesinger, the director, and the producer brought the book to MGM, the studio, and they said, we want to do this very dark story about this wannabe hustler going to Times Square. And MGM said, we think this could be an Elvis Presley vehicle, and we're going to put in some songs, and we'll take out that dark stuff. So, on a bad day, MGM could have taken it over, and it could have been Elvis Presley in Midnight Cowboy, which would have been something to see. But the point is, when we watch Midnight Cowboy, it never occurs to us how many different things had to go right or had to be learned to make that happen. And having worked behind the scenes, having created things, I can tell you that there are things that I did not know going in. Somebody brought it to me. Sometimes whole story ideas were not my idea. In fact, the script I'm best known for, Fracture, wasn't my original script. Someone else had written a very, very good script. The studio wanted to make changes. Someone else was hired after that. Then I was brought in. So many of the plot twists I didn't come up with. I did a lot of the writing that made those plot twists work in that form that it did end up in. But when you watch that movie and you come to me and say, how did you think of that plot twist? The answer is, I read it in somebody else's script and I used it because that's the job. So the answer is, you can't just look at stuff you love and go, ooh, I know how they did that. You'll never know how they did that, and you'll never know how your work is going to come out. You just don't. You have to get used to the experience of trying to get something done, doing the best you can, and seeing how it plays.
You had talked about something in the artistic process, abstract to concrete to abstract?
Yes.
What is that?
That's sort of a follow-up of the artist artist-audience issue, which is nothing will ever come out like it feels to you. That is part of the art. I don't think there's any artist who hasn't gotten, hopefully, used to it, because it's part of learning how to do it. One of the things that brought this to me was I was once looking at a Picasso drawing, and late Picasso drawings especially are just like, they're like scribbles. You know, it looks sort of like a bull, but how did he know to make the line go? Like, how did he know to do that? Because it's just a scribble, but it's a bull. And I suddenly realized he didn't know. He knew that whatever came out would be interesting. He trusted that. And that's what every artist has to learn, that you don't know exactly how it's going to come out. You can outline. I outline incredibly thoroughly. And I think I know what's going to happen. But the truth is that there's going to be a process after that, the creative process, good word for it. You're creating something out of nothing. And when that happens, it's going to be something that you're going to discover as you do it. And then you need to shape it and rework it and do all the other things that artists have to do. But the thing in your head, there's this feeling or this idea or this line, and then you put it on the page, and then somebody else performs it, and then someone else sees it. And in all of those steps, it's not what you thought it was going to be. And the best thing an artist can do is get really comfortable. In a sense, getting comfortable with a failure. You're going to fail to get your exact feeling and thought out to someone else. That's life. It will never, ever happen that someone gets exactly what you thought it was. But what will happen is you'll get used to doing that scribble, and somebody will go, oh, cool, bull. And that's art. That's the magic of it, is that you get used to bringing something abstract into a concrete form, and someone else gets an abstract experience out of it. That's something that only art does. It's beautiful.
So get used to, sounds like just experimenting and trusting that I may not know where it's going, but this kind of feels right. And knowing that that same thing, you could see it, could be changed drastically, and you have to be collaborative and okay with that.
Get used to the process. Get used to the experience of doing the thing over and over. If you're playing tennis, you get used to hitting the ball, and you hit it over and over, and then eventually you'll get to where you can control it more. But still, there's going to be a lot of other elements, and the only thing that you can get used to is the process of making the swing. Likewise, the process of thinking of something, writing it in a concrete form, editing it, shaping it, rewriting it, giving it to other people, that process. That's what you have to practice. That's what you have to get to enjoy and feel comfort in. And the more that you do it, the more that you'll get lucky and things will work out. And you'll be like, oh, I think this line is funny. And then you write it down and someone reads it and they laugh. That gives you so much power for the next time you do it. Because sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it's going to not work. But the more you do it, the more it will work.